All right, I am recording.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast, where we are currently watching network television because me and Nathan do not watch network television. We are watching The Blacklist, Season 1, 2013. We are watching Season 2 of The Mentalist, 2009. And we are watching Season 2 of Miami Vice, 1985. As always, we start with The Blacklist. We have Season 1, Episode 6, Gina Xanatakos, number 152. Original air date, October 28, 2013, NBC Monday. After Tom confronts Liz about the box, he claims he's innocent and insists that they turn that they turn it into the FBI so his name can be cleared. Elsewhere, Red informs Liz and the FBI that the next name on the blacklist is beautiful and deadly corporate terrorist Gina Xanatakos. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, written by Wendy West, directed by Adam Arkin, which that is Alan Arkin's kid.
Oh, okay.
Who was
didn't
born?
know that.
Who was born in 1956.
Huh.
Which means, and Alan Arkin's still alive. Which I immediately confused that with the guy from MASH.
Oh, okay.
Which I can't even, it's Alan, what is it? I can't even remember what it is. But yeah, that guy. They're both still alive.
Oh, still doing it, huh?
But yeah, Adam Arkin's a pretty prolific television director and does some acting here or there. His latest role was in that Nicolas Cage movie Pig.
Oh, really? Okay. About the truffle hunting pig?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just know it's Nicolas Cage and his pig gets stolen, and that's like all I know, and it's supposedly good and ridiculous. So
it sounds, the premise in the trailer looked, I was like, what's Nicolas Cage doing now?
I mean, all of his movies are like, that's a wacky premise and it has Nicolas Cage, and like, is it good? And it's like a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
I hear that's one of the good ones.
Okay, well, good.
Anyways. So, we start in Leibniz Forest, Germany.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that, I'm guessing that's how you say it. Yeah, I have some guy building a bomb. It's a car bomb in a Beamer that's not a Beamer.
Yeah.
Has some other thing on it. I'm pretty sure it's a Beamer because it has like that split grill look on it.
Yeah, it is.
And then some dude and a lady blow up the car. She asks if he can make it radioactive. He mentions some CZ-137. And then he makes a joke. He's like, but that one already was. And she kind of gives him a serious look. He's like, I'm joking. And it's like cut to credits. We come back and Tom and Liz are in an argument, and Tom swears he doesn't know anything about the box and he's blaming Liz for it.
Yeah. This is your world. Not mine.
Which is an interesting ploy.
Yeah.
And then Tom dares Liz to call the FBI on him, and so she does. And it's weird. They go to like, you know, their black site, off book FBI, and she says she doesn't work for the FBI. It's like, well, who are you? Are they just like some special NSA agents or something? Or
Yeah, I didn't. I heard that and I was like, wait a minute. That's all. Yeah, that's what they say they are. But okay.
I know they're also working with the CIA and Red, but you know they're the FBI.
Yeah, they're like part of that, unless she's saying I just work for Red now, but she doesn't. Yeah.
But we have Red is like dealing in like, I don't know, like probably stolen paintings or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, although it helps be a clue later on. So it's just one of its like, well, just quirky things we have Red doing.
Yeah, he's always doing something he shouldn't.
Well, this time they kind of make it seem like he's like, they kind of make him out of his depth, where he's like he's just making up stuff about this painting. And they're just like, you know what? I don't know. You want this? It's worth money, whatever.
Yeah.
or he says it should be up in like a museum in Boston rather than like being somebody's wedding gift or something like that. They drag Tom in to interrogate him. Cooper puts Liz on leave. And then we have Red talking about like corporate espionage and conspiracies while they're in front of the White House. So I think this is like their like JFK moment.
Yeah. I'm Mr. X, and I'm here to tell you all the most plausible scenario you've ever heard.
And this is where he explained Gina Zanatakos, and she's a corporate terrorist.
Yeah, and he names things that really happened, like the Tylenol murders, the Firestone tire fiasco. There was one other thing, like stuff that really happened, and it's like.
But then he throws like Chernobyl in there and stuff like that.
Like, yeah, these were all things done on purpose to not for political reason, but for financial gain by competition. And it's like, oh, I've never heard that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but it's like, that's an interesting premise. And it seems like it's going to be a one and done for this episode. I thought we were opening an arc here of like, well, what's Red really like doing this for? This isn't just like evil, like country evil. It's all corporate evil, which in today's world, corporations and the government are like very hard to tell apart anyway sometimes. So.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, usually like kind of this corporate espionage doesn't necessarily end in a body count like they have it here. It's just usually like it's like public opinion of something lowers, and then thus they lose money, and then it's like, oh, somebody did this on purpose, but we can't prove it and stuff like that. So
we don't talk about it.
Yeah. So we never really know about any corporate espionage. It's just kind of like it's just somebody knows it exists, but like they're not talking about it.
Oh, it exists, but it's mainly it's stealing secrets. It's not sabotage. That sabotage is like that draws a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Being Chernobyl was run by a communist government.
It's who's your competition, economic competition. It's
I don't get
and
that.
It seemed like they were already winning that war, so it's just one of those things. You throw Chernobyl in there, it's a buzzword. It's like, oh, this is serious.
Yeah. So, but again, I'm always looking for like, oh, is there a deeper thread here? Is this a common thing? But then I don't see it pay off. I mean, I didn't see it pay off in this episode, other than just as a background.
I mean, the interesting thing about this episode is that, like, we always know that like Red's a bad guy, but we always kind of have like fun with him, and like he always kind of like saves the day in some way. And this one, it's pretty much like he's just kind of bad throughout.
Yeah, he's never fun.
And you just have to hope that there's some silver lining to like all the bad things he does.
Yeah, and he's not dealing with like the usual espionage, like in his crime world. When his what do you call him, the concierge of crime is with him, and they're talking elliptically about things. In this case, it's like, oh yeah, we're just giving this painting to. It's not even like a Russian oligarch or something. It's some sheik, and it's like, oh yeah, these are the same idiots that are like dipping falcons in gold and all the other gross stuff that they do in the Gulf oil states because they have more money than they have no taste or style or culture. So this is another thing where we're gonna. But it doesn't seem to really like. It's all an episode about. Oh, it's just greed. Everything's greed.
Yeah.
It's not always a political ideology.
Yeah.
Which is somehow more depressing and empty than if it was like terrorists believing in a weird ideology. It's like, well, at least they believe in something.
Yeah, it's like if it's corporations doing bad things, that can happen anywhere without an ideology or behind it.
Or with the total lack of ideology.
Yeah.
The complete opposite of belief in anything greater than oneself. You're just a servant to the machine of money.
It's true terrorism. It has no leader.
It's the end phase of communism. It's just all things subordinated to the corporate state for profit or power or whatever, Yeah.
So
Read
Tom,
Marx, it's there.
Tom is like getting interviewed by Mira, and then he's like telling like he met with this guy named Walter Burris. He was the headmaster, which here is like, does he actually exist or not? And like, well, they're gonna check up on that. So Because basically, they put things like, "Were you here at this time?" Like, yeah. Like, is that a picture of you? He's like, yeah. Like, was somebody murdered in that hotel? It's like, yeah. But it wasn't me. um, and let's see here. Yeah, Cooper puts Liz back on the blacklist case because Red is holding something on Cooper. He says something about like Kuwait or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, apparently he's some kind of war criminal or something.
Yeah. It's another thing. You throw a term out there, you imply importance, but you leave it vague. So it's just up to
It's one of the things I'm not liking about this show. It's one of the few things is we're like just threads. It's like a sewing circle of threads here. Where do these tie up? Well, they don't. It's more of a. It seems like more of a backdrop because there's no way it could all tie together into something later because most of it's dropped. Like you're not going to be as a viewer be expected to remember like you're taking copious notes at every. Not everyone's a lunatic like we are. We are taking notes, but that's for a different reason.
I mean, you can always pick this up later on when instead of a threat, Red just follows through on it and just reveals like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be something like, oh, he covered something up and it was bad. It's like, it's like, how bad could it be? It's like, oh, well, he was feeding children into a wood chipper. It's like, why? It's
why?
Like
bad, yes. Oh, he's psychotic. It's like, oh, that's a real sellout there. That's not a.
Yeah, because I mean, from what we know of Agent Cooper, it's going to be like he was in a bad situation. He made a decision. It wasn't malicious, but it looks bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, so nothing changes. Anyways. And Gina, she seduces some guy and drugs him and or kills him. And we never follow up on. They're like, call an ambulance, and like nobody's like trying to resuscitate him or anything.
Yeah, just rifling his wallet and stealing his cell phone. It's like, has anyone checked for a pulse? Nah. He's dead. That's what the script says. Come on, just rifling through his wallet. Just tuck $20 in your brassiere that you found. Whatever.
Yeah. Then Wrestler are like, they get a clue for some reason where Gina is, and so they find the guy in the hotel. And then like Wrestler leaves, and he ends up fighting Gina in an elevator. And they try to make it
because Liz calls the phone, right?
Yeah. No. He calls it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Because she hears Gina hears the elevator open, and then she kind of like sulks down one of the hallways away from the place, and then when everybody leaves the elevator, she goes back, and then there's like this sort of comedic thing where like a Girl Scout troop goes into the elevator, and then Wrestler like hops in too, and then like all the Girl Scouts leave, and it's just Wrestler and her, and they end up fighting, and there's like another door opens, and it's like a guy in his underwear and his two kids or something, and I don't know if that's just like lazy dad or something more weird. And they just walk away. It's like, all right, you got the elevator.
Yeah, it's your elevator, whatever you guys are doing.
And then she chokes out Wrestler, and then she leaves the elevator once it hits the bottom floor, and that's where Liz calls the phone, and then like so now he has Gina's phone.
Oh, okay.
So that's and then they end up searching the phone, and they get a bunch of stuff out of it or something. We figure out that there's a dirty bomb in play. Tom met with somebody claiming to be Walter Burris, but because they go check it out, and it's not so like, hey, do you know this guy? No, he's like, no, I've never met this guy. And like, well, that's the real Walter Burris, so you never met him. There's all the weird stuff where it's like where Tom's in the room by himself, and he's like talking through like the one-way glass, and Liz is behind it, and he's like, I know you can hear me. It's like weird, but I don't know, it's dramatic. So
yeah.
I guess Gina owns just a place in town.
Yeah.
So they raid that place, and they find a similar mysterious box that was under the floorboard that has all Tom's passports and guns and money and stuff. And they actually find just a picture of Tom in the apartment too.
Yeah, it's in a book next to her bed, which was what book was that? Damn it! I know I had that written down for something. Anyway, yeah, it was a picture of Tom.
Yeah.
It was implied like there was something romantic there. Like, why is she keeping this guy's picture by her bed? It wasn't them together. It was just a picture of him. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like somebody's arms over his shoulder, which it could be Liz for all we know.
yeah,
I forget. I think I maybe wrote it down. So at some point, Red says like, because Gina is Tom's lover, which is always a weird sentence when you call somebody their lover.
yeah. In this case, it should be like sexual partner. Sexual partner, because none of these people have souls. They're just merciless, like Terminator robots that happen to have blood. All the bad people in the blacklist are just like soulless.
Yeah. And Red and Liz have their gazebo talk.
Yeah.
I wrote that down just because it's fun to say the word gazebo.
It is a fun word.
It's never what you think it is. It's just a thing with a roof.
Yeah, you're always thinking like lattice work and like carved unicorn pillars, and it's like, nah, it's just a cheap, circular structure.
It's basically a tent just made out of wood.
Yeah.
This is where we learn that the name of the bomb expert is Maxwell Rudiger. Red flies to Germany on his private jet and meets with him, and he kind of threatens him because he wants to like keep
him with an expanded business opportunity.
Yeah. Red says he's got something going on in Syria, and he's playing all sides. So again, we don't know if that's a lie, but it feels like no, he's probably doing that.
Yeah. The more ridiculous things he says, the more chance it's true.
I'm giving guns to both sides, and we're going to make money on all ends.
Yep.
And in the middle will be a destroyed country as we sip wine in a different country.
Yeah, and listen to classical music, and yeah, it's all true though. It's not that part of it's not made up. That goes on all the time.
Yeah. It just usually doesn't get like filtered down to one person who's just kind of doing it on a whim with spreadsheets.
No, there's always money. Yeah, there's always a lot more hands. The world's way more complicated than TV. There's always many people involved. Everyone gets to, what the Sicilians say, everyone dips their beak in. There's no one guy making $1 billion, but there's like 100 guys making $1 million. All equals the same, again, destroyed country, dead children.
Yeah.
Nothing really resolving itself, just waiting for it to happen again.
But here we get Red trying to like kind of like play both sides, where it's like, well, we want to catch this blacklist person, but also I'm not going to completely sell out this bomb guy because we're going to still use him later on. But also I don't want Gina to kill him. So he just hands him a phone and he's like, call her. And so we never actually see that interaction and see how well or poorly it goes.
Well, the bomb maker is a weird, kooky guy. So he seems like someone that could.
Yeah, just live in the forest in Germany making bombs, and he's a drunk.
That's what Red said. He's like, oh, he's a complete alcoholic and he's so random as a person, but he's fun.
Yeah.
He's good at his job.
Which I imagine he's almost like the stew maker guy, where there's just some destroyed family in his background, and he found booze and bombs.
Yeah,
like I got a hobby and a medicine. Like I'm all good.
Hobby medicine. I think the guy in the hotel room, the Turkish guy, was where they were obtaining the cesium. Was that it?
No, the Turkish guy is basically getting the car into the country without people having to search it.
He's doing the diplomatic seal. Okay, yeah. Where'd you get the cesium? Did that play a part in it?
Because they don't end up using cesium. He makes a point that they end up using cobalt 65. Okay. I wrote it down somewhere, but I can't see it right now. Which is just a different form of waste from a nuclear power plant. So
yeah, it's just something equally as bad. So.
Yeah, it's just something, if you blow it up, it's not going to be great. But I don't know, also maybe because like how easily they toss away radiation at the end of the episode, like maybe that's just kind of a way out. It's like it's less radioactive.
Yeah. It's the only radioactive isotope water completely neutralizes. We're gonna ship it on a boat. Whatever. Great. Next, be cranking that camera.
Yeah, then Gina and Liz have a bathroom fight, and there's like this whole thing where it's like, where Wrestler is accusing Liz. He's like, you shouldn't be on this case. If you find you're just going to shoot her and hide the evidence. And then it just works out the opposite, where Wrestler comes in and just shoots her. and then Liz is mad. He's like, no, we'll never find out.
Yeah, but to his credit, she had like a knife going towards
yeah,
the
yeah,
at the time.
Yeah, and he, they did show that like he basically shot her in the shoulder a bunch. So,
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, also there's like literally a ticking time bomb. So they have to find this car, or a bunch of people are going to be dead. We find out it's an evil shipping company that wants to like set a dirty bomb off in Houston, so that the port in New Orleans gets more traffic and thus more money. So,
yeah, it sounds like a reach.
Yeah. Well, also, we should name the fake corporation, and all those people should be going to jail.
Yeah, or be killed.
They find the bomb. The car is the bomb. Like, it's built like the car's like it's like the internal structure of the car is the bomb.
Yeah, huge bomb.
Which I like the bomb tech is like, we got a big ass problem here. I wonder if the bomb tech guy is like an actual bomb tech guy, or some like consultant, because he's not a great actor, but he seems to like know stuff. So
yeah, they might have stuck him in. They might have hired the actor that's like, this guy looks good, but he doesn't convince me that he knows. He has nothing but a room temperature IQ here. We got to get someone who really sounds like they know what they're saying.
And then they have they have the car on the ground, but for some reason they put it on like a forklift, and then Wrestler just jumps in the car and drives it off it's like, it seemed like we're missing a scene here, or an order of operation.
It's got 45 seconds. Quick, let's crane it up with some slow device. No, just drive it off the damn ramp. Or use that thing to throw it right in the water.
Yeah, I think Liz makes the thing that like water's better at containing radiation, and so like, let's just drive it off the dock.
Yeah, it's great. That's how the people on the International Space Station survive. When it comes too close to the sun, they stand in the room where all the water's stored. Because you can't make the ISS out of lead because it'd be too heavy.
But yeah, I mean that is somewhat true. Like, we know from reading certain like nuclear submarine books, where it's like, you just put the radiation in the water and it'll figure itself out.
Yeah, the ocean is a wonderful filter. Filter.
And even like, you have these bad oil spills. It's like, actually, if you just waited, like the ocean would kind of clean itself. But then, rather than what our intervention, like, sometimes our intervention is worse. But
yeah.
Anyways.
Well, it all comes. There's nothing on this planet that wasn't of this planet. It's like, it's all except now, like, refined radionucleotides and stuff, that's purely manufactured. But oil, they're not refining it out in the ocean when those derricks go up. They're just bringing it in to be refined. It is actually the product they sucked out of the ground, minus sand. So now, I wouldn't want to be eating fish out of there or anything. I'm not saying it's good.
Well, I thought because they drive it into the water, I thought there was going to be like, like the water like short circuits the bomb and it doesn't go off, and there's like happy accident. But the bomb does go off, but then they just like throw it away. It's just like, it was very well contained, and like, we're all good now.
The port's fine. Say nothing.
And I kind of feel sorry for like the guy who did the stunt where he jumps out of the car, because like, that always looks like that sucks, and that one looked especially like brutal.
Yeah, that didn't look fun.
And then like the car bomb going off is just some digital effect that doesn't look very good.
Yeah, no one got covered with radiation death water. I always wondered how. As soon as that happened, I was like, "Is there going to be a follow up to this? Like, hey, why is everyone in the port of Houston dying of cancer? We don't know. We have no idea." These fucking dock workers out there, no hair. Oh, the shift is killing me. No, it doesn't come up.
We, yeah, we created a new hazing process for the rookies where they make them skinny dip in this one part of the dock and they all start dying. It's called job security.
Want to play skin burn? Who's gonna be the glow man? Or yeah, at night, like, hey, why is there a flashlight under the water? It's like, oh, that's just natural phosphorescence.
um, um, yeah. So they come at Gina's alive. She's like out of surgery or whatever, and Gina admits to killing Volker. Before he gave up his secrets because he was going to defect to America, which I'm not sure what secrets were left to defect for. But
Yeah.
And then she says she was hired by Red and claims to not know Tom.
Yeah.
So Tom gets released, and he spots some guy in the crime board in the background. He's like, "Yeah, this is the guy I met." And I don't. Are we supposed to know who that guy is?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. Okay. Then Liz confronts Red and like says that he set up Tom, which that may or may not be true.
Yeah, we're not sure.
And yeah, and this is where you kind of leave it just where Liz is like, "Yeah, I want nothing to do with you," and Red just kind of is sad, and it's like, no, it's like through the evidence of the episode, you're the bad guy the whole time. This is all you're doing.
Yeah, you're not being unjustly accused of something.
And the only thing you didn't do is you didn't put the bomb in the car and set it off at the docks. Oh yeah, I forgot. I think I wrote that down. But like the way he gets the clues, like the guy's doing the painting too wants the painting sent to New Orleans rather than Houston, and that's where.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's where Red gets the things like, oh, I think I know where the bomb is. It's in Houston, because the guy wanted the painting delivered there, or he wanted the painting delivered to New Orleans rather than Houston because he knew something. Then we come back to the Keen surveillance team, and so they ask the questions like, so like Tom isn't working for Red. It's like, no, and they're like, who is he working for? And it's like Shrug. And then here we hear the Apple guy, and he's British, so don't know what that means. Is that British intelligence or whatever? Because all these guys in this crew watching Keen are American, so this is British. So we don't know who they're connected to. We don't know if this is freelance. We don't know if this is CIA, FBI, MI6. We don't know. It's just another mystery. So,
yeah,
that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, it's fairly exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, but some interesting stuff. But it was just there's a lot of I don't I'm not sure like how much plot holes in the blacklist really matter, but sometimes to us, sometimes the plot holes mean something to us or catch our eye, and it's kind of a glaring thing. And other times it's like, don't worry about it, it's fun.
Yeah, well, that's part of the frustration of the show is it seems to want to project this otherness of like, oh, there's something going on here. And and you as the audience need to watch closely, but then we're going to introduce so many concepts and ideas, and then nothing ever seems to, because we're six in, and half the stuff Red says is like, well, is that going to relate to something later? I don't know, but they don't seem to put it up. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it seems like it wants to be mysterious and kind of straightforward at the same time. So it's like, does that mean something later, or is that a plot thread, or is that just a way to propel the story? I don't know.
I forgot that there's another fun Red line where he's talking with Cooper, and this is where he's like holding something on Cooper, and he says like, delivering criminals to you is a hobby. Like one that if I bore of, you will be like less inclined to keep your job or something. So yeah, again, Red has the best lines.
Oh yeah. He's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. And when will hubris take hold?
Yeah.
So
or
we
has.
yeah. So you have, yeah, because it's probably the lowest for the character so far. Because he's
Yeah.
sad. He's sad that Liz doesn't trust him, even though he's given absolutely no reason to.
Yeah, he generated completely the opposite feelings about engendering trust with people and not.
What? I've killed like 3 people in front of you and saved your life. Like, why don't you trust me? I've only put you in danger constantly since you started your job at the FBI.
Yeah,
That apparently isn't the FBI.
the post office.
And first,
Counterterrorism unit of the post office.
um, and for our second show, we have season 2, episode 6, or The Mentalist, season 2, episode 6, Black Gold and Red Blood. Really weird, stretchy title.
Yes, they fit that. Well, they had to horn that in.
And I'm not even sure of like what's it a pun on, but I don't know, I'm probably missing something there.
Oil and death.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Beverly Killbillies.
Yes. In California.
Original air date November 5th, 2009, CBS Thursday. While CBI investigates a homicide over what appears to be over a land claim, Patrick is put in jail for spying on Sam Bosco to get information on Red John. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Bruno Heller, directed by Rod Hardy. This is a pretty good episode, but it's a little bit also just a bit too wacky for how serious like things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well,
that's part of the weirdness and the beauty of this show.
Yeah.
Is the overall show is just about a sad guy who's really smart and has all the talents and all the intelligence, but is like, he's just a damaged person.
Yeah.
And he's smart enough to know that on some level, but it's always it's kind of this jaunty traipse through corpses and death and murder, and then there's this overarching like Hannibal Lecter type killer that's out there, and
which because the show isn't just him, like, because he's presumably he's rich, and so he could just take on the Red John case on his own with his own money and just start randomly killing people that he can associate with it. Yeah. But he needs the help of the CBI. And so there's this weird friction where he wants to get what he wants, but he has to deal with, rules and regulations.
People and who you think maybe he likes, or the whole thing's just a ruse. You don't know.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of sociopathic traits.
Yeah. Hey, so we have Kirby Hines. He's a welder. Is the dead body, dead from blunt force trauma. He also has glitter on his face. And we have Rigsby is afraid that Jane knows about him and Van Pelt, just because he does those things.
Yeah, just because that's what Jane does.
He just looks in your eyes and like, something wrong with you. A crowd gathers and there's like an argument and a guy pulls a knife and then Cho subdues him. The guy is Theodore Luscombe. Luscombe, I think. Yeah. And he's just like, a garbage sovereign citizen moron.
Yeah. He's one of those anti-government people. Like, I don't have to say anything to you under my rights. I don't recognize your authority. It's like, these guys.
And I don't know if he's like always that way or if he was that way after he lost the court case that comes up later on. But But yeah, in this I think after the credits, Bosco has Jane arrested for spying on him.
Yes, the bug from 3 episodes ago comes back.
Yeah. But Bosco gives him a choice. He either wants Jane to leave the CBI or be charged for spying. So Jane goes to jail for ways to be charged for spying.
Yeah.
And we have this weird scene where like Jane comes in there and he's talking to the guards and he's like, and the guard's like, why were you recommended for protective custody? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not a cop. And he's like, okay. Do you want
he
protective?
asked him, he said, well, there's 2 reasons. You're a cop or a pedophile. Which one is it? He goes, well, I'm not a pedophile and I'm not a cop. Well, I don't know why. And he's like, well, so do you want protective custody? No, gin pop. Oh, fine. It's your funeral. But before Jane is introduced into this, he's walking down the aisle. Remember, he says in front of Jane, the guy, the sergeant or whatever of the county jail cell or whatever it is, was like, "Yeah, did you see any vermin?" And the guy's like, What does that mean?" He goes, "Like mice." Because we find out later it's important this sergeant isn't afraid of mice
Yeah.
in a way that's like insane. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about it later. I don't think I hate spiders. I've killed one on the show. I do not like them. But if someone like threw a spider at me, I wouldn't like piss my pants and forget whatever's going on. I would get the spider off and then continue. Whatever. It was like, oh, okay. I see.
It's one of those things like, do you remember that part? Well, here it comes back, and it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, it's not all right.
That didn't really pay off, but I know why it's there. Aha, I was paying attention.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they throw Jane in this room with this, large set black man, and he introduces himself. He's like, "What are you in here for?" I was like, "I was spying on a state official." And he's like, "You?" And he's like, "They said I raped and killed this guy." He's like, "That didn't happen. We had consensual sex, and then I stabbed him to death." It's like, good night.
He's like this 500-pound black guy who's kind of a charming guy.
Yeah, he's jovial. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't even know if that's true. It never comes up again, except when Jane talks to him, about having therapy, and it's like, well, your dad just didn't know how to show you love. It's not he didn't love you. He didn't, and this guy was like, oh yeah, so just Jane being Jane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that character is pure comic relief. He's not really to be an introspective character because that character is so mismatched and weird. But he hits all the comedy beats, so he does a good job. So.
Right.
I think, we found out there's a land dispute. The family land was sold to the Gerbers, and apparently there's oil on the land, but it used to be like it was like under. Something hard to get to oil, so it wasn't worth getting it. But now that the prices are going up, now it's worth it. So,
yeah, that's called the sweetness of the oil for anyone who's curious.
Oh, explain that?
Well, the most popular oil in the world is what they call light sweet crude from the Gulf, and really that doesn't mean anything. It just means you have to put a lot less energy into processing it into refined gasoline. So when you get into the oil like that's in the Gulf, that's in the Gulf of Mexico, that's in the southern parts of the United States, that's all light sweet. It means you don't, when you have to set up a refinery and you put it in the cracking tower, you don't have to use as much energy to make, because you have to use less energy than the product you're making, or it doesn't pay to sell it. But when you get into oil, what they call oil shale and Brent crude, like Brent crude's from the North Sea, that's outside of England and Scotland. That's a little harder to process. And then you have like sand shale, which would be California, Northern California up through Canada. That's the hardest stuff to process. But as the price goes up, it's like you can put more energy into it because it's still paying out. So that's what the kind of that kind of oil is all over the place. And we're just starting to use. That's what fracking. That's how that gets that out of the ground.
I thought fracking was for natural gas.
No, you can use it for oil too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you can use any process.
Yeah,
because I always heard that this oil in countries with a lot of sand is cheaper because it's just easier to drill through the sand.
Yeah, I mean you can drill for it too. It's a little more destructive, I think, because when you're fracking, you're putting something in there to replace it. Whereas if you just suck it out of the ground, you're just creating a void, which will later fill with earth. And,
Because I always hear like stuff like it, like there's a lot of minerals and stuff we could get in Russia, but it's like basically you have to like terraform the land to get to the good stuff, and it's like too much energy to get that.
Yeah, I mean if you want to dig 2,000 feet deep, 2,000 feet deep open trench mines with giant machinery, you could get all the molybdenum and all that stuff out of there, or you can get it in Africa where it's abundant. You just got to dig it out of the ground. That's why China's building. That's what all the Belt and Road stuff in China's about. In Africa, it's because we'll build you freeways and infrastructure, but we want all your because they're investing in something that's a fixed cost. We'll build you a road, we'll build you infrastructure, but the price of those minerals there only goes up and up and up. So it's like, yeah, the road we paid for, now we want the minerals. And once we have all the minerals, we set the market price. So.
And we don't care what happens in your country.
Yeah, we absolutely, we don't care what happens in our country. Why would we care what happens in our country? Like, when the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, like they had to shut down all the factories like 2 weeks before the people started showing up.
So they could breathe.
Yeah, they could compete at an Olympic level. And that was the same thing with the Summer Olympics in Beijing. They had to shut all the factories down like a month before, so the people could you could see the people doing the 500 dash or whatever, but not through a haze of like smog.
I hear most of that's just because like they expanded too quickly and like it's too hard to build more reliable energy sources, so they just build coal plants.
Yeah,
because you could just set those up in like a week, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's a lot easier to set up a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
Which is, they want that to be their main source, which the world is like, oh, we can't wait till China has 800 nuclear reactors. But yeah, they just keep doing that, and then also they have there's no OSHA there. There's no like EPA.
Yeah.
You know what just the mechanism is growth, just like it was here in like the 1870s. Like there was no rules here. You could smelt lead in the middle of New York City if you could get the city to go along with it. I mean, they didn't care. Well, hey, someone's making money, cool. It's the same thing now. It's just now the rest of the world knows how bad it is, and China's like, well, we're not going to go back to being poor, so this is what we're doing.
We're going to take this one on the chin.
I don't blame China for doing that, because it's like their options are not like, well, you can stop progressing and go back to being like medieval feudal states that just fight with each other. It's like, no, how about no? How about there's 1.5 billion of us, and no, we're not doing that anymore. So yeah, it's like, if I was Chinese, if I was running China, I understand their point of view. It's just, it's like, yeah, this isn't going to take us anywhere we want to go, but yeah, you're not going to stop them either. It's like you're not going to stop India when that starts growing. It's like, yeah, there's too many smart people there now. Too many of them have come to Western universities and got PhDs, and it's like, yeah, this is how you grow your economy, and that's what happens.
Then we I think we go to commercial. We come back, and then Jane's in it's not like the lunchroom. It's just kind of a general meeting area.
A recreation place. Yeah.
I don't know what you'd call it.
Well, they were recreating at one point later in the
episode. So like everybody thinks he's a cop, and he basically just manipulates a room full of criminals. Then we come back. We keep coming back to it. And Jane hypnotizes a guy to get off drugs, which is kind of funny.
Off huffing paint.
Yeah.
It wasn't even drugs. He was like huffing paint, and he's the guy in charge of the jail.
Well, he's like the alpha of the group or whatever.
Yeah, he's the main prisoner. Yeah.
Which is yeah, I don't know, but also this is another weird thing where it's like it's like, I don't know things about between prison and jail, but it's like, how long can these people actually be in here? It's like are they going to be in there long enough to like build reputations and stuff like that?
I don't know how. I know the difference between prison and jail is where you're waiting to go to prison, or you're waiting for a trial.
Yeah, or trial.
And it used to be like 6 months or a year or whatever, but now the way our legal system works, it's like there's people that are on Rikers Island is not a prison. It's just the big main jail center for New York City. There's people that live 5 years.
Oh, okay.
You're just waiting at Rikers Island to go through the New York courts and then go upstate to the big prisons. But it's like, yeah, there's so many people. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, okay. So
I thought Rikers Island was a prison.
Yeah.
Like, now it's county sheriff or whatever the counties are that come together.
Yeah.
It's like that's like the county jail essentially. But
because it's always like shorthand, like you're going to Rikers, and I always assumed that was like a prison. Okay, so our criminal justice system is even worse than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also wrong on that in some ways too, because you can be sentenced for offenses that don't rise to state penitentiary crimes and be at Rikers for like a couple years. Like you can be in county jail for 2 years for DUIs and stuff. They do have different holding if there's no one killed. They do have different rules in different places. But yeah, no, our system's terrible and slow and completely overwhelmed and sad. And I mean, it's why they got rid of debtors' prisons in this country?
No.
A lot of people thought it's like, oh, that was immoral to hold people for debt because there all kinds of things could happen. It's like, no, they were running out of places to hold people, and they're like, we're not holding people for banks and rich guys anymore to work off their debt in one way or another because the state is paying to hold these people to work off debt that the state is then paying back to the people that held their debt. And it's like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to have to build prisons the size of cities. And it's like, no, we're getting rid of it. A lot of people think, oh, they got rid of that because of morals. It's like, no, they got rid of it because they don't want to pay to house them anymore. But yeah, anyway.
Failed economics work on your behalf. Lisbon and Van Pelt meet with Donna Hines. She was a Gerber, and she married Kirby, the guy who died. Mm-hmm. So there's family squabbles about. Apparently their marriage was on the rocks, but she kind of denies that, but also says they had been having problems. And also Kirby was apparently beat up a few weeks ago, and like, did you do that, or did somebody else do that? Do you know? But she isn't giving up any names. Cho meets Jane in jail when he comes with the case that they're working on, so he can help out. Which that becomes super weird because like Jane's like constantly on the phone, like trying to do this, and he's just like, I can't do this without the people in front of me, and so he just finds ways to get the people in front of him, and it's like fun and weird and completely unlikely. But anyways, and also like the whole
monitor any of those phone calls going out of those jails, I guess.
Yeah, and also just like the time frame of the episode makes no sense. It's like, okay, how long did it take to process this guy and put him in jail, and then you're also in the same day having like visitors at the same time. This guy, his dad happens to bother to come and meet him his first day of jail, and it's like it's a lot of circumstantial stuff that just happens to come together. But whatever, it's fun. Whatever.
Yeah, it's TV. It works.
Yeah. And then Bosco, Cho, and Risby have like a conversation where Bosco sort of proves that Jane has corrupted them because Bosco's like, it's like, hey, we need to do some stuff, and like, we gotta do some stuff that's kind of gray so we can keep the good guys alive and the bad guys like down. And they're like, yeah, we're willing to do that. And he's like, see, he's corrupted you guys. You're not supposed to do that stuff.
Yeah, you're not supposed to just readily agree.
Yeah, and so that just kind of proves Bosco's point, which makes Bosco seem like less like the bad guy. It's like, see, yeah. I'm right. And then Jane picks up on something. He's like looking through a diary, and he figures that Kirby was a bird watcher because all they have is like these weird numbers and names that they don't know what it is. And Jane picks up on like, oh, he's watching birds. And, and this is where also like on the phone, Jane apparently gets more than one phone call and like calls like 4 different people. And he sets up Rigsby to have a confrontation with Roddy Gerber, which is kind of fun. The guy who plays Roddy Gerber, like him and the guy who plays Rigsby were both in Generation Kill together.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So Jane sets him up, and then like when Rigsby comes out, he's like, it's like, you Roddy Gerber, I'm Agent Rigsby, and Roddy just punches him, and then like next scene, Roddy's in jail with Jane. This is where he finds out that the whole thing where like apparently Kirby found out there's turkey vultures on the land, and that's a protected species, so they wouldn't be able to dig for oil there. And then apparently Roddy beat up Kirby and also shot the vultures dead. But he didn't kill Kirby. And then also then he calls Jane, or Jane calls Lisbon and convinces her to visit him in like a ruse. He also wants a cup, or also wants a muffin, a blueberry muffin. But this ends up being where they meet Dolly Gerber's visiting Roddy Gerber in the prison at the same time. So Jane goes and asks him some questions. He asks him like one question, but it's all just a setup for Jane because he knows what's going on. Nobody else does. There was also a constant thing where like a lot of things are cutting back and forth. We're like constantly cutting back to Jane in the hospital, and then what's seeing going on the investigation. So it's got it's hard to keep track of time in this episode. It makes no sense. It's just in a weird time warp.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the rest of the gang are telling Lisbon that like Bosco's attracted to her and that she should use that against him somehow to get Jane out of jail.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "No, I'm not doing that, and you guys are crazy." And then Jane makes some contraption in his jail cell to catch a mouse.
It's a Bible, a plastic bag, a string.
He took some of the bedding and he just like ripped it until he can make a string with it.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they love that.
Oh yeah. They love arts and crafts in jail.
And then Jane fakes being passed out so he can lock that one guard in the room with a mouse and escape the jail.
Yep, just throw on a guard's jacket. And walk out. Yeah.
I mean, he just had like there was like some I don't know like a doctor coming in and like he starts yelling like help! There's someone escaping. So this is somewhat realistic, but somehow Jane gets away and he's immediately like back in a suit, and he's like on the way to a wake that's at the Gerbers.
Yeah.
And then he's like questioning everybody there, and ends up what was her name? She had a weird name. It ends up being Dooley's wife,
Sandrine.
Sandrine. Like she had an affair with Kirby, or did she kill him because of the affair? Right? Yeah. I think it was because of the affair. And Kirby was gonna
environmentalist welder. Just gets beat up by this lady's son, and he's sleeping with her, and his marriage is on the rocks.
He decides like he needs to come forward with the truth because, and so she kills him because of that. And I don't even know how. Like, she just hit him with something.
Hit him with a rock, I guess.
Because I believe it was blunt force trauma. I can't.
Yeah,
I believe that's what it was. Maybe she just took him off guard. So it's a fun. So Jane used a threat. It's like the cops are on the way, and so you hear the sirens, and so she basically just admits to it. Like they get on the speaker. It's like Patrick, Jane, come out with your hands up. And she's like, "No, you tricked me." And he's like, "Ha ha."
Yes. And now the wife of the guy who you killed, won't get any money because now this whole land deal for oil is gone because of the turkey buzzard. So you're in prison and your grandson's in poverty. And a win for all.
And Jane doesn't get in trouble for escaping a prison or a jail. It's like and at the end, Lisbon threatens Bosco with something in their past, like something they swept under the rug, but they don't mention what it is. So again, and Bosco's like, "You're going to ruin both our careers for that." And Jane only hints at something that like Bosco must have killed somebody and they swept it under the rug or something like that. But also, I think they also intimate that maybe they had an affair or something, but I don't know how that throw both their careers down the hole.
Yeah.
So it's got to be they did some improper justice and just like hid it away.
Yeah. So it was kind of a different mix it up episode.
Yeah, I mean, they're having fun. It was like wildly like unreal, but it was still fun. So.
Yeah.
It's crazy that Jane can do all this stuff, and at the end of the day, it's just all forgiven. I mean, I know technically he's not a part of the CBI, so he's not held to the same standards, but it's still crazy.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Yeah. And then for our third show, we have season 2, episode 6, or Miami Vice, season 2, episode 6, Buddies.
Yeah.
Original air date November 1st, 1985, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubbs race to find a young mother and her baby when they are targeted for death by mobsters. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Frank Military.
Okay. It's an interesting name.
And directed by, so like if it's just using American English, it'd be Harry Maestro George, but I'm betting it's supposed to be like Maestro Jorge or something like that. But I could not find a pronunciation that was respectable, so Maestro George it is.
Yeah, it works for me.
Which that's a hell of a name for a directing team and a writing team. So I know usually we try to find like the benefit of doubt for these shows. This was a pretty bad episode, right?
Yeah, this wasn't a good one. No, this wasn't a good one. It had all the hallmarks of being good, but then the story did not come together in a way where it's like, oh, it just kept turning and turning and turning, and like the MacGuffin, the thing that drove the story was, it was like, yeah, there's obviously a choice here, and at any point this lady could just walk into a police station and be fine.
Yeah, it seemed like 3 episodes crammed together.
Yeah,
because it feels like, okay, what would be interesting is an episode about Miami, like club guys that are trying to legalize gambling in Miami. You could do a whole episode about that. You could do a whole season about that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Then you have like the abusive husband. So the mother runs away to Miami to try to make it on her own, and ends up being taken advantage of, and she defends herself. Like, that's an episode. And then you have like Crockett's War Buddy episode, and they cram them all together, and
it's a mess.
Yeah,
it's like it.
Well, I felt like a lot of it, like, it's very emotional charged and serious about some of this stuff, but it just kind of comes off as clumsy. And I wonder if it was one of those things where it was like the actors were really into it. It's like, yeah, this is character development, but like when it got put on screen, it was just silly.
Yeah, I can't put like one. I can't point out to one like fatal flaw in this. It's just like the whole thing structurally was not sound.
Yeah,
it just did not go together in a way. The way they told the story, the kind of the people's motivation in it. It was all like, it was just a mess, just a big smear of things. It was like, yeah, I get that, but I don't. And the acting was fine. It was weird to see Nathan Lane as a rapist. And it's like, I recognize some of these people, but it was also like, it didn't have the emotional impact it should have.
Yeah,
because the story was such, it was just trying too hard in too many ways. Like, you know, his buddy, he's from the army, they were the only 2 guys who made it out of their unit in Vietnam, and it was because they stuck together. And you know, this guy's running a club, and it's like, yeah, and I want you to. And this guy Robbie just had a kid, and he's like, I want you to be the godfather of my child. And you know, Crockett's like, yeah, sure, you know, that's great. But it's.
Oh yeah, I'll just run through it and we'll come across this stuff again. But I just hope I didn't misread the episode and it was good when I thought it was okay. So. Yeah, we had James Remar, he's Robbie.
Yeah.
He weirdly looks older in this than he did like in Dexter, like 30 years later.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
It's probably his haircut. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's drinking after his kid was born at a pool hall dance club or something. Apparently, it's just across the way from the hospital or something.
Yeah. It's a hospital and tavern. It's a Florida.
Crockett meets Robbie at the club. They were in Vietnam together. Robbie makes Crockett the godfather. Some guy pulls a gun on Robbie when he jumps on this pool table.
Yeah.
And then Crockett gets them out of there without any shots being fired. He gets to pull a gun on a guy and yell police, but then Robbie like disarms him anyway because like, hey, don't pull a gun if you're not going to shoot it. So.
Yeah, and he like stuck it in the guy's like against his forehead or something. It was like I did he cock it or I don't remember, but it was like yeah, that's okay. So Robbie has some experience with violence.
Yeah.
That's introduced.
Nah, he did like knock down like 5 shots in about 4 minutes. So
This is true. Yeah. 'Cause he has an immediate altercation with the bartender, which would get him thrown out. And he's going because he's like, I want 3 shots, and the bartender throws 3, and he's like, who's drinking with you? He's like, it's just me, and he's like, oh, you just became a dad, huh? And he's like, yeah, and he goes, well, Dad's not going to be alive very long if he drinks like that. He's like, hey, don't say that to me, it's this very 80s censored TV thing. But yeah, and the bartender's just like, yeah, okay, just but yeah, anyone else would have been like, okay, this guy's a problem, get out. But for the story, it works.
So cut to credits. Come back. We have Nathan Lane doing stand up at some Miami club.
Yeah.
I forgot.
By the way.
Yeah, I mean that's on purpose.
Yeah. It's not like he's improvising.
Well, you find out like this guy has something to deal with the club, so they're kind of just like giving him like, what can we hire him to do? And he's like, he's bad at everything.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the club. They show the sign. It like still exists in Miami.
Oh yeah, that's the yeah. I
Like
didn't write it down.
It's like Spartel or something like that. Or
Yeah,
Showtel or something. Then you find out there's this hostess, and she's like covering up bruises because like her husband abused her back in New York. It's Dorothy, and she has her baby there, and like the boss is like, hey, you got to find somebody to watch that baby. You can't be bringing it to work. It's like, she's not like, well, you know how much we're paying me. I can't afford a babysitter.
You know what childcare costs in this city? It should have just launched into the struggles of the working class.
Yeah,
that's not Miami Vice.
And
then Noogie's wife, Ample Annie, is in this a lot.
Yeah.
Noogie's not in it, but
no. She's the one. Yeah, she has like 50 jobs for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't really know what she's doing. She just kind of shows up and has some information. And then Dorothy loses her job because some guy grabs her ass and she spills a drink, and it's like, yeah, we're firing you because our clientele is awful. It's like, thanks, the economy.
Yeah. Well, this is the 80s now.
Yeah.
It was the dark times.
Then Nathan Lane, Monty Price, he's kind of like, she's just like sitting on the bench, like lonely, and then he's like, he kind of offers a helping hand, and they just suddenly gets rapey and abusive, ripping up her clothes and punching her. And then she says before she's never going to let that happen again, so she stabs him to death. Just one stab and he goes down dead. So
yeah, I mean, if you stab someone in the heart with a fruit tray knife, it will kill them. It's just unlikely that you're going to get through the rib cage.
I mean, she's smaller, went up and in.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be.
Apparently the people that run the club are being watched by the FBI, so for some reason Vice is put on the job because it's ultimately about gambling or something.
Well, they have the papers she puts in the bag.
Yeah.
In that guy's office are apparently like bet sheets for illegal gambling.
Yeah, they're like tally sheets for
So in order to be subtle
betting
and not to make problems because they're trying to get legal gambling in Miami, remember, they decide to shoot up half of Miami trying to kill a woman and her baby because that won't draw any attention. You just
because they one for killing this guy, two because she has the papers and they think she's gonna hold it over him, and like I'm guessing she doesn't even know what the papers are. It was just betting for the baby, which seems like very bad betting. Like you're in there's like literally like towels and pillows in that room.
Yeah, here, 8-month-old baby. Stay on this crunched up paper and never cry because mom is on the run and the mob's trying to kill her.
Also, unfortunately, I don't know if this lady is supposed to be playing an immigrant or she's just a bad actor, but both work.
In real life, she's Hungarian.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was basically a ballet type person.
All right.
Well, I think somebody like took a fancy to her. It's like, hey, let's put her in this episode. She can be a sympathetic character, and it's like, well, she tried. I mean, if I went to Hungary and had to act, I probably wouldn't do any better in their TV shows.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But it's also like a common thing where in Miami Vice, where you get like a really young person and put them on the show, and they're very bad at acting.
Yeah, but they look hot, and it's
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
it works.
This Das and Kanata are trying to legalize gambling in Miami. They're the club owners, and apparently they're just the mob. But
Yeah, they're just generic mob figures, and they look the part too.
yeah, yeah. I guess one of those guys actually went on to be in like The Sopranos. I can't remember.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. What's his name? Oh, where's the guest? Was Frank Valley?
Yeah, I think
The one Frankie Valley.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the papers just have name and numbers on it that could be incriminating, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Even Crockett, when he found out what it was like, they can't tie that to anything. Names on a piece of paper. But yeah.
This we find out that Robbie owes money to the mob, but he doesn't want anything to do with them. He's like just coming there to hand him a check and like, don't tell me anything. I don't want anything to do with this.
Right.
In fact, I'm gonna mail you the checks for later. Yeah, because he like runs a club across town, but to get startup money, he needed mob money. But we'll find out even more later. Yeah, so we have Annie's working a hot dog stand. She's all over the place.
Yeah.
So she's working at a club, working at a hot dog stand. The guy who owns the hot dog stand is her agent. It's just weird. It's just comic relief shoved in there. So
Yeah. Comic relief shoved into a situation that is about as far from funny as you could get.
yeah. The mob wants to kill a baby.
Yeah.
Better shut that baby up. It doesn't know how to form sentences.
Shoot the baby. It's dark. Shoot the baby. It's dark. They'll be afraid of us. The darkness. I don't know.
Crockett and Tubbs talk with Robbie about his connection with Das and Kanata. And of course Robbie just flies off the handle at the end of it. And also, in this round, we suddenly find out that Robbie is Kanata's son. Like dun dun dun. It's like
I was sitting here doing like a paint thing on a model, and I was like, what? I was like, come on, you took me out of my model. Oh boy. That's where I wrote the episode off. I was like, sometimes these episodes are a little uneven. Sometimes for the first 35 minutes they can be uneven, but then it sort of like pulls itself together with some cool stuff at the end. It's like that's when I just lost me. When I actually started just to stare at the screen like, what? Okay.
Yeah, and Tubbs like he changed his name in high school. Crockett, you want to know because apparently they're in college football together because there's a photo of them on the football team, but.
Yeah, they were in college football and then Vietnam. And then through all the hell they came through, that guy, he never like mentioned this. It's like, hey, if I die, friend, I want you to know my real name. The mobster.
Yeah, it's where I'm guessing neither him or Crockett like finished college because usually you wouldn't like finish college football and then go to Nam as just like enlisted personnel. You'd be officers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's just everybody is with Oliver Stone.
I mean, Dad got drafted after college, but he was, but I don't think he just like wanted to do like, okay, whatever I got to do. Because I don't think he was going to Vietnam, and he didn't. But yeah, so maybe it was one of those deals where they're just mass drafting people.
Oh yeah, I guess I could have got drafted as well, but
yeah.
I always figured he volunteered. I don't know. I'm assured we have more Crockett Vietnam buddy stuff coming on later. So
I hope so, and I think it's a little better.
Yeah, Danny Bain shows up. It's the husband of Dorothy, and he just insults everyone. And then Crockett shoves him around and makes him scared. He's like, hey, like shoving ladies around, and then Castillo's like, Sonny, in my office now.
And
so
it turns out he wasn't even unhappy about that. He was it's like, you're too close because of,
yeah,
anything. It's you gotta,
he takes him off the case.
yeah.
And then Sonny talks with Robbie again, and he tries to guilt trip him. It's like a very weird scene.
Yeah, see, this is when I was really
like, this is what it's like to be a man. It's like, and he's like pointing a gun to his own head. And somehow Robbie knows where the girl is because he overheard something. It's like, I'm sure on paper, like the actors were like, yeah, this is some real meaty stuff. And then it's ridiculous in the edit.
Yeah, there was something wrong, and something was wrong here. But it was just a story. Everyone acted their ass off, but it was just a story.
Well, it just feels weird that this. It feels like weird that Robbie just won't tell him where the girl is. It feels weird that Sonny's trying to guilt him into like, hey, you're not a man if you don't tell me where the girl is or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like tactically thinking, it's like, well, the mob, my dad's holding a mark over me for money. It's like, if I tell these cops what's going on and dad goes down, it's like, well, my debt vaporizes with him, right? I mean, or I just pay the next guy off. It doesn't have to involve me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't, no one's like uses logic in these TV shows. So.
Yeah, and then Robbie sneaks out, and then Crockett chases after him, and it's kind of an okay car chase.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's 1980 something Corvette versus a Ferrari,
which is also a Corvette. So this time they're equal.
Yeah.
Unlike last time where it was like the cars were so unequal and they shouldn't be able to just escape away. Well, here they have like a fish truck, like with a bunch of like swordfish on ice gets toppled over, and and then the Ferrari skids out. So. And then Robbie gets to Dorothy, and you seem like, oh, he's gonna kill her, but like, no, he's gonna like give her money and like get her out of the state. And that's when the gang show up, and I forgot the others. Previously, the gang go to her hideout, and they have these weird masks on, which kind of makes them look, it's like almost like weird clear blackface kind of going on.
Yeah, it's something strange.
I mean, it looks like if a black guy had like one of those clear kind of like slightly obscure your face masks on, but it's a white guy with that mask.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. It almost looks racist, but it's just obscuring. And yeah, so people are just popping up out all over the place to try to kill her. Robbie guns down a bunch of them, but then he gets shot, and then Crockett dives through the window and shoots the rest of them, and then Tubbs shows up and is like, it's like, you okay, Crockett? It's like, yeah, and then Crockett's like talking to Robbie. He's like, see, I helped her out. It's like, I did the right thing. He's like, yeah, you did the right thing. And then it's like freeze frame, and it's like, did he die or not? It's like, I don't know.
Credits.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Was this episode worthy of him staying alive or not?
Yeah, we drug you through this whole thing. Now it's time for you, the audience, to choose. You've earned this because this episode sucked.
Yeah, a lot of mean well. I think they meant well, but I just didn't come together. So
yeah, and it was all the writing of the story, and or maybe how the show was edited. I don't know, but I think it's just the way the story was written. It was kind of stupid. It's like you said, that so much stuff was hitting the wall here. It's like, oh, there's 3 episodes here.
Yeah.
But we don't need to, or at least like the first act where the girl running from New York to Florida to try to start over to Miami, and and the rapey comedian, and he kills, she kills him in self-defense. Like, that could have been a whole episode. But it's like, no, they had to throw this other thing in, which again could have been a standalone episode where you could have built tension and had characters and stuff. But now let's just cram all this stuff in.
I mean, it started off interesting, where it's like, okay, here's Crockett's Vietnam friend, and then you come back from the opening credits, and it's like, a woman with a baby, and you're like, okay, so that's his baby, right? And then she's like,
yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like,
and
huh.
it's like, oh, and she has an abusive husband. It's like, oh, this isn't going well. And it's like, oh, that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
there's just two babies in the wind.
Yeah. There's just guilt babies around there.
And there's some parallels there, but just that, and it's like, yeah, it's like they're two. Like every time we cut to like the Dorothy thing, it's like she's always, it's a compartmentalized part of the episode, so it's always divorced from the rest of the episode. And because she's not that great of an actor, it's always just boring and doesn't really add anything to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of close-ups of her looking confused on the camera.
Yeah.
Saying her dialogue and then like turning her head like a dog. Like, huh? Where'd they find her? Okay. Is this her process?
Yeah, and then sometimes they cut to the mob guys, and like they're also separated from Crockett and Tubbs, and the only the thing stringing that together is Robbie, and then they have the familial connection that's just like out of nowhere and doesn't and makes it. I don't know. I think maybe in the 80s that was simpler. Like, oh my God, they're related. But like anytime they make things like that's somebody's father, it's just so lame nowadays.
Yeah, it's been done a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and it was just, to me, like I said, it took me away from my paint process. Like, what are you saying? Did I need to rewind this? Did I miss something? No, I didn't. Okay.
And also just a terrible episode name.
Yeah, not a good name.
Buddies. What's the episode about? Not buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost has a title of one of the, like, is this going to be a comical episode? But
yeah, because reading the title, reading the episode like title and the description, I thought it was going to be like Crockett and Tubbs are like solving crime by like taking care of this baby. Like I thought that's what it was going to be. Yeah. Not like Crockett's Vietnam buddy, who's like maybe like a tenth of what the episode's about.
Yeah. Yeah, so not a good Miami. Nothing like Where the Buses Don't Run or something,
No.
Where it's like that too was strange in a way, but it was like, oh, it paid off, for the story. Where this one was just like, oh, okay.
I don't know. Also, like, yeah, that's like, I've never seen this written by credit of Frank Military. I've never seen this directed by credit of Mastro George. So this was their first crack at stuff. So maybe it just didn't fit. Like they didn't know how to do the style.
Yeah, that could be.
We'll see if they happen upon other episodes. Like maybe they figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you've liked your podcast, if you liked our podcast, now couldn't you? You can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, or you can go to verhoeveneffect.com. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of your choice. You can rate us whatever you want. The only thing to listen to is the highest rating. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. At anchor.fm.com or verhoeveneffect.com. We also have listener support where you can support us at a monthly stipend of 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. We're at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. We have another podcast called American Greed Factory. You can find us on YouTube or podcast of your choice. We can both, on YouTube, you can watch this and that podcast both live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, this is Conlon.
This is Nathan.
Goodbye, America.